Hi Jeremy. Today we meet at the TCM hospital in Bad Kötzting, the first hospital for Chinese medicine in Germany. This is a good place to talk about your new textbook and the concept of an integrative approach to Chinese medicine. In a few words, what's integrative Chinese medicine? We call it ICM.
ICM stands for Integrative Chinese Medicine, which combines Chinese medicine, Western herbal medicine, and also modern phytopharmacy research. And very important, it integrates these into the everyday practice of conventional medicine.
What are the benefits of ICM and what problems does it solve?
Many practitioners lack skill or confidence in differential diagnosis, or they lack skill or confidence in the choice of acupuncture point combinations or herb combinations. ICM gives them a fast, easy, accurate differential diagnosis system which increases the safety and the effectiveness in the clinic.
Your new textbook of Integrative Chinese Medicine is based on 45 years of study of Chinese medicine. But the story is a little bit longer. As a young man, you decided to study biology and you specialized in biochemistry and plant physiology. What motivated you going this way?
As a child, I was fascinated by the world of nature, and as my analytical mind developed, I wanted to understand plants and animals in terms of physiology and biochemistry.
When did you get the idea to use plants to treat patients? Why did you not simply study medicine?
I was trained as a research scientist, but I so much enjoyed the teaching in that job that I changed over to teaching biology. But in 1973, I left teaching, I left England, and like many young and long-haired people at that time, I ended up in San Francisco. There, by chance, it was a chance meeting, I started studying acupuncture with Ephraim Korngold, and I started studying herbal medicine with Michael Tierra.
Did you enjoy the herbal medicine?
Well, I love working with the herbs, but there was a big problem. All the books that were available to me at the time, they didn't differentiate between the different herbs. For example, they said rosmarinus can treat headache, lavandula, thymus, salvia, all can treat headache.
So you couldn't see what made each herb unique?
No, and that was the problem, and I found it very frustrating. I was trained to be precise and analytical. So what's the difference between these herbs? Does each of them treat a different type of headache? From frustration, I became determined to find out what makes each of those herbs special and different from the other herbs in the same group.
Did you make any progress with this?
Over the years, from clinical practice and from study of the text from the 16th and 17th century, like John Gerard and Nicholas Culpeper, I built up a differential picture of the herbs. For example, although there's overlap between the two, rosmarinus and lavandula, they can be seen as polar opposites. Rosmarinus is stimulating, warming, moving and expanding, and it can help to make people more happy and more social. But lavandula is calming. It can calm anxiety, it can calm fear, for example, before an interview. And it can help to treat nervous palpitations.
Did you continue your studies in the United States, and what was your next step?
In 1974, I didn't know of any trainings then with acupuncture and with herbal medicine in the United States. So I went back to England and I completed the training in phytomedicine with the National Institute of Medical Herbalists. I learned a lot from this, but the same frustration came again. I studied with some great and very experienced herbal practitioners, and I would ask them, there are 7 herbs listed in the textbook for liver and gallbladder problems. So how do I know which one to use? When should I use one and not another? And they would just smile at me, and I never knew what that smile meant. Does the smile mean, I don't know? Or does the smile mean I do know, but I don't know how to explain it? Which does happen, even with some very experienced practitioners.
We will come back to that herbal frustration later. But meanwhile, what was happening with your acupuncture studies?
Well, I studied in turn with the three main schools of the time. That was Dick Van Buren, and then the Jack Worsley School, and then the British Acupuncture School of Royston Low. And I gained from each of them in different ways, but I had the feeling that I wasn't learning Chinese medicine. I was learning some kind of Western extrapolation of Chinese medicine. For example, I was hearing diagnosis in terms of, is it too much metal within wood, or is it too much wood within metal?
The lovely story of the 5 elements.
Yes, the diagnosis was not in terms of the Chinese organ syndromes. For example, this man has liver excess heat, and he has liver wind, and he has phlegm, and therefore he's at risk of a stroke, a cerebrovascular accident.
So you went to China in 1980 and 1981. Did this help to solve the problem?
Yes, it did. And I felt at last, Chinese medicine, at last I can diagnose a patient in terms of the Chinese organ syndromes. So I wrote my book Zhang Fu in, I think, 1987, because I wanted to give this information to other Western practitioners.
But you still had your knowledge in Western herbal medicine. Did you want to apply this Chinese medicine to Western herbs?
Of course, I wanted to describe Western herbs in terms of Chinese medicine, and specifically in terms of the Chinese organ syndromes. Staying with the herbs we were talking about as examples, Rosmarinus warms and moves and expands to treat, for example, heart or liver depression. But lavandula calms the heart, and it can treat anxiety and fear, for example, before an interview or an examination. And also it can treat nervous palpitations.
But you did also start studying Chinese herbal medicine.
I did a 2-year course with Ted Kapchuk in Holland, but then I went back to Nanjing and I studied with some really great Chinese herbal teachers. Dan Bensky's Materia Medica was published in 1986, I think, and it was an enormous help. But even then, it was still hard for Western students to organize the material so that they could clearly differentiate between similar herbs in the same group.
So what did you see as a solution for this?
I wanted a visual system so that at a glance you can see the differences between similar acupuncts, similar Chinese herbs, or similar Western herbs. So I designed the 4 imbalances as an interactive tool to solve this problem. And there is an interactive PDF of this system online at the website integrativechinesemedicine.com.
So what are the 4 imbalances?
We can say that there's 4 things that go wrong with energy. First of all, there is deficiency. Not a person feels they haven't got enough energy, they feel weak, and so the principle of treatment is to tonify. Secondly, there's stagnation, and the person's got the energy, but the energy is blocked. Either they don't do enough physical exercise, or there's emotional constraint. Thirdly, there's disturbance. Now that could be physical, like somebody has the energy of the stomach going up instead of down, which it should do, and so they're vomiting. Or the lung energy, which should go down, is coming up, so they cough. But it could also be that they're very nervous, and they're, oh God, what am I going to do? So the principle of treatment, obviously, is to calm. With excess, which is the fourth one, here there's temporarily too much energy in the system, for example, like a fever. And so the principle of treatment is to drain, to clear some of that energy. And I think I forgot to say that the principle of treatment for stagnation is to move.
Does the 4 imbalance system solve one of the key problems of Chinese medicine for beginners, its complexity?
I've taught in many countries and for many different schools of Chinese medicine, and I've found that many practitioners lack accuracy and they lack fluency in differentiating the Chinese syndromes. So the practitioner can't use the full power of Chinese medicine, which leads to lack of confidence and lack of success in the clinic.
But the 4 imbalance concept also solves another problem, the problem of complex patients.
Yes, many chronic patients today are complex, with 10, 15 or even 20 different Chinese syndromes at the same time. So that after the consultation, the practitioner is buried over the head in data so that they lose sight of the clear overall picture. The 4 imbalances give that clear, simplifying picture so that the practitioner only has to think in terms of, do I tonify, do I move, do I calm, or do I drain this patient?
So you use one and the same concept to keep an eye on all problems at once?
Yes, the system of the 4 imbalances is the key to the lock. However, the 4 imbalance system works on 2 levels. First, the 4 imbalances gives a clear, simple overview, and then the 4 imbalances plus the 5 organs gives you the detail and the precision of the diagnosis. So each of the 5 yin organs, the lungs, the heart, the kidney, the spleen, the liver, can be seen in terms of the 4 imbalances: deficiency, stagnation, disturbance, or excess. So, for example, the practitioner decides, do I tonify, do I move, do I calm, or do I drain the liver?
Yes, but the students and the practitioners have another problem: how to differentiate between all the Chinese syndromes in the clinic.
Yes, and as I said, this is because many don't have the fluency and accuracy in differentiating Chinese syndromes, and this is partly because they don't know the precise questions that will differentiate between the Chinese syndromes. So I created the differential questions system. This new system gives only 3 differential questions for each Chinese syndrome, which makes it easier to differentiate between similar Chinese syndromes. The questions are phrased in everyday language, which can make the whole process more engaging for both the patient and the practitioner.
Can you give me an example?
Yes, here are 3 differential questions to determine whether or not the liver is involved for a specific patient. First of all, do you have migraines or headaches? Because generally this is specific to the liver. Secondly, do you think you're a little bit more irritable, impatient, or angry than other people? And then thirdly, do you feel blocked and obstructed in your life? And the thing here is it's no use, it's not effective asking, do you have depression? Because this isn't specific to the liver. All of the 5 yin systems can be associated with depression. What is specific is if the depression is associated with feeling blocked or frustrated or obstructed, because the liver governs the free flow of qi, or if the flow of qi is blocked.
The differential question system sounds wonderfully simple, but what if the practitioner needs more detailed information?
The differential questions table are backed up by the detailed symptoms table, which give information on the physical symptoms, the appearance, emotional, mental, tongue and pulse. So we have the quick, simple and clear, but we also have the detailed and the very thorough.
We have talked about integrating Western herbs and Chinese medicine, but you are a research scientist. How did that affect your work?
So firstly, I describe herb actions in terms of their main constituents. For example, rosmarinus contains camphor, rosmarinic acid, arsolic acid, and this is what gives it its stimulant, antidepressive and cognitive enhancing action. Secondly, ICM herbal medicine is evidence-based, and this is very important. So if we make a statement like berberis may assist the treatment of heart disease, we must give the evidence that supports that statement. For example, a team led by Qing in 2018 reported that berberine, which is the main constituent from berberis, promoted myocardial improvement in post-operative heart patients.
In summary, what are the founding principles of integrative Chinese medicine and what are the benefits and the solutions?
The founding principles of ICM are the 4 imbalances and the 5 organs system, which is the key to many locks, and also the differential question system. ICM therefore supplies all the practitioners with a fast, easy, accurate differential diagnosis system, which is the basis for safer and more successful treatment. If you're interested in integrative Chinese medicine, then please go to our website where there's a selection of explanatory videos, integrativechinesemedicine.com. Thank you.
Jeremy, thank you very much for that interview.